Amazing black waiter unveils hidden talent to rescue billionaire's deaf father. You won't believe what happens next. The restaurant buzzed with a lively energy as the clock ticked toward 8. Jamal, 28, wove around the tables, balancing 4 plates of gourmet food on one arm while taking an order from a busy couple on his other side. Each day blurred together, the relentless pace echoing the clatter of silverware and the soft murmur of conversation that filled the air. Yet beneath the surface of this chaotic ballet, Jamal's dreams simmered, waiting for a moment to break free. He wanted more than this life. He wanted to be on stage, strumming his guitar and singing his truth. But every day felt like a reminder of the weight on his shoulders, a single mother at home, a younger sister looking up to him, all while patrons saw him merely as another cog in the restaurant's well-oiled machine. But tonight, as Jamal cast a glance toward the back of the dining room, he caught something out of the ordinary. Mr. Thompson, one of their wealthiest patrons, sat with friends, his voice edged with concern as they spoke about his father's unfortunate accident. Jamal stiffened as he overheard snippets about the elder Thompson's newfound silence, lost in a world it now felt foreign to him. He remembered the years spent learning sign language to navigate the prejudice he faced, and the idea of offering help, of stepping beyond the role of waiter work crossed his mind like a flash of lightning. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Wrestling with his own instability, Jamal found himself standing at the edge of a decision that felt monumental. Could he truly step into this man's life, beyond the confines of his job? Above the sounds of clinking glasses and sharp laughter, his heart raced at the thought of making himself vulnerable. Yet, wouldn't he just be putting himself at risk? Wouldn't he be doing what society always expected, knowing his place, serving rather than sharing? As he chewed over these thoughts, his palms began to sweat, uncertainty gripping his chest. His internal conflict festered, growing heavy in the pit of his stomach as he approached the Thompson table. The air felt thick with tension, a mix of ambition and dread swirling around him. He saw Mr. Thompson's eyes shift to him, suspicion laced with surprise. Was it worth it? Would this be another instance of him being underestimated, a fleeting moment of support that would go unrecognized?
The walls felt like they were closing in, trapping him in this precarious moment. But as he stood there, straining to find the right words that might bridge the gulf between their worlds, he couldn't ignore the longing for connection, for familial bonds that transcended status and wealth. Would he sacrifice his job, his dignity, to possibly change the course of this family's fate? The stakes were unfathomably high. As tensions peaked, Jamal could feel the remnants of fear consuming him. Tonight, he would either shatter his limits or tighten the noose around his dreams. And for the first time in a long while, he felt utterly lost, staring abyss-like into the unknown, desperate for resolution, yet terrified of the choices before him. Jamal inhaled deeply, a bead of sweat trickling down his forehead as he felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. It was more than just a decision about helping Mr. Thompson's father. It was a crossroads where his entire life hung in the balance. He scanned the table, observing the focused expressions on Mr. Thompson's friends and the underlying hints of desperation in their voices. The urgency that filled the air ignited something within him, a flicker of determination rising against his convictions of self-doubt. What if I could help? The words slipped from his lips before he could second-guess them. The moment they left his mouth, disbelief rushed through him. What was he even suggesting? That he step away from the safety of his role, risking everything? Mr. Thompson furrowed his brow, a flicker of skepticism flashing across his features. Jamal felt his words become a fragile thread being pulled taut. I can sign, he stuttered, clutching the edge of the table, searching for the right tone to convey both his earnestness and capability. If your father needs someone to communicate with him, I can be that person. The atmosphere shifted. Silence enveloped the table as hesitation waged a war against hope. Jamal remained rooted in that moment, adrenaline coursing through his veins, bolstered by something far greater than fear, his desire to connect. He had long learned that the silent bond lingers more profoundly than spoken words, and for once, those years of struggling against invisibility ignited a purpose rather than mere resignation. At first, Mr. Thompson appeared taken aback. The skepticism morphed into contemplation as he exchanged glances with his companions. The recognition of Jamal's earnest intent seemed to dawn slowly, eventually softening the rigid lines of worry etched on his face. "You'd be willing to?" he inquired, a hint of relief flickering through his hesitance. "Yes," Jamal replied with an unexpected confidence, feeling as though he had passed through a barrier he had long believed impenetrable. The gravity of his choice settled around him, an unfamiliar sense of calm washing over the chaos. "And if it doesn't work? If he doesn't accept?"
the friend at the table queried, embodying the doubts swirling within him. "If he doesn't accept, then I'll still be here. I can promise you I won't regret trying," Jamal asserted, the weight of his own reality pulsing within him. He no longer felt like an invisible shard of glass in an intricate puzzle. He suddenly belonged. With a nod that seemed to signal an unspoken agreement, Mr. Thompson gestured for Jamal to follow him into the adjoining room where his father rested. As they moved, the world outside faded, replaced by a new intensity, a raw anticipation humming in Jamal's chest. The door creaked open, revealing an elderly man encased in silence, with an expression tinged with confusion and vulnerability. It struck him then. Each glance, each brush with solitude articulated a story. Breaking through that silence would be his mission. But deeper still, Jamal faced this moment as an opportunity to reclaim his own voice. This was not merely about helping a man. This was about transcending the boundaries he had unconsciously accepted. As he approached, the gulf between waiter and participant faded, replaced by a surge of newfound purpose. "Hello, sir," Jamal began with a gentle sign, unsure yet emboldened. "I'm here to help." What lay ahead was unknown, a path woven with challenges, but one thing was certain: he was ready to grasp it. In that moment, anticipation filled the air like electric static, the unraveling of an uncharted potential echoing silently as Jamal faced the man who would seal his trajectory into a world where silence no longer overshadowed his voice. In unraveling threads of connection, he felt a stirring of hope, not just for Mr. Thompson's father, but also for himself. What did this new path mean for his future? As recognition of his own capabilities dawned, a haunting question emerged. Would he rise, or would this new opportunity slip through his fingers? Jamal's heart raced as he approached Mr. Thompson's father. Each sign he offered felt like a test of his conviction, a challenge to articulate not just letters and vocabulary, but emotion and intent. The old man blinked, confusion etched across his features, but Jamal wasn't deterred. He was here to connect, to extend a lifeline through the silence that enveloped them. With meticulous care, he formed the signs for hello and help again, focusing on his facial expressions and body language. It was vital not just to communicate through signs, but to imbue the moment with genuine warmth. He could feel Mr. Thompson's anxious presence hovering behind him, another layer of pressure that threatened to unravel his newfound resolve. "Can you understand me?" Jamal asked, his signs flowing earnestly. Mr. Thompson's father shifted, a flicker of recognition crossing his eyes, like the fading spark of a long-dormant flame. Jamal leaned further into that flicker, keenly aware that each sign he crafted was a step toward breaking the barriers of isolation. As he gestured, he recalled his years of feeling voiceless, the deep-rooted fear of being misunderstood or dismissed. Those memories coursed through him, fueling his determination. This wasn't just about aiding a man. It was about unshackling himself from the chains of doubt that had bound him for far too long. Each interaction with Mr. Thompson's father held the potential to transform both of their lives. Suddenly, the elderly man reacted, his eyes lighting up as he grasped the essence of Jamal's signs. "You can speak?" His expression shifted from confusion to faint joy, as if the audacity of hope had breached the fortress of isolation he lived in. "Yes, sir, I'm here to help you communicate," Jamal signed proudly, feeling the importance of his words resonate in the air. It was a powerful act to acknowledge the unvoiced fears behind that frail exterior. As he continued to sign about the world outside, memories flowed through him. Those times he dined in silence, listening to conversations he longed to join, the moments he watched laughter pass him by. Each sign he formed garnered greater understanding, and soon Mr. Thompson's father was attempting to sign back, albeit clumsily. The sight of the reality of human connection sparking back to life ignited something deep within Jamal. For the first time he felt a surge of belonging,
not as a waiter, but as an equal, a communicator breaking through barriers. Every time the elderly man responded, confusion would turn to laughter or contemplation, a kaleidoscope of emotions swirling between them. Each successful sign pushed Jamal further along his path of self-discovery, reinforcing that hidden talents had always lingered within him, waiting for the right moment to be unearthed. Yet, even as the connection blossomed, an underlying fear gnawed at him. Was he truly ready for this connection to endure? What if he faltered? What if Mr. Thompson's father found him wanting when their interactions deepened? The fragility of the burgeoning bond felt both exhilarating and terrifying. With each optimistic sign Jamal crafted, the walls around his own heart began to shift, creating fissures that let light pour in, illuminating fears he had not been ready to confront. And in that moment of connection, a haunting question bubbled to the surface. What kind of future lay waiting for him beyond this moment? Unbeknownst to him, this new journey was merely on the cusp of unfolding, a path that would challenge everything he knew about himself. As Mr. Thompson entered the room, the weight of anticipation fell heavily on Jamal's shoulders. He could sense that the tides were changing, and what lay ahead would demand every ounce of courage he had unearthed. Would he step forward and embrace the unfolding challenge in front of him, or retreat back to the familiar shadows he had fought to escape? The answer to that question loomed on the horizon, waiting to catalyze the next chapter in his life. As Mr.
Thompson stepped into the room, the atmosphere thickened with tension. Jamal's pulse quickened, an inner turbulence swirling between anticipation and dread. He felt the weight of the moment, not just for himself, but for Mr. Thompson's father. Their tentative connection had cracked open a world that had been closed off for years. Yet here was Mr. Thompson, a potential disruptor, a variable that could change everything. "Dad?" Mr. Thompson's voice held an edge of urgency. His gaze darted between his father and Jamal, scanning for any signs of misunderstanding or distress. Jamal sensed that this was not merely a reunion, but a pivotal moment that would either forge new pathways of communication or cast shadows of doubt. Jamal took a breath, centering himself. In this space, he was not just a waiter or an outsider, he was a bridge. He needed to represent the progress made in the past few moments, a shift that redefined possibilities. He signed to Mr. Thompson's father, "This is your son." The old man looked back at Jamal and then at his son, a flicker of recognition sparking anew. Jamal saw the emotion wash over Mr. Thompson's features, the delicate interplay of hope and fear resting heavily on both their shoulders. Underneath the tension was a pulse of transformation, a chance for healing. "I know there's so much to say," Jamal signed, feeling the weight of sincerity in his gestures. "You two can talk. I'm here to help." Engaging with Mr. Thompson's father felt seamless now. The fragility that had once petrified him was replaced by fierce determination. It struck Jamal that this was about more than just interpretation. It was about facilitating healing. Yet beneath this facade of calm, doubt lingered, presenting itself in growing whispers, warning him that he might not be enough. What if he couldn't mediate effectively? The stakes felt impossibly high. He had come so far, but the journey ahead threatened to unravel him. What if the limitations of his knowledge or experience revealed themselves when it mattered most? The old man's hand quivered as he reached out and attempted to sign, faltering at first. Jamal's heart ached for him. This was a man who had lived in silence, every letter another stone in the wall that had confined him. As the words flowed from Mr. Thompson's father, Jamal felt the surge of responsibility swell within him, the knowledge that he was, in essence, the vessel through which these long-held emotions would finally flow. The connection intensified, shifting into something grander. Jamal observed the ripples of communication unfurl as Mr. Thompson's father's expressions deepened, evolving the relationship before Jamal's eyes. Each sign was a revelation, a tiny triumph which slowly kindled a hope that had long been dormant. Each acknowledgement of their shared vulnerability transformed Jamal, lifting the weight of his fears inch by inch, moment by moment. Mr.
Thompson, however, stood still, a statue caught between disbelief and the raw emotional landscape unfolding before him. Jamal's heart pounded as he recognized the moment. It was now or never. Would he seize this chance not just to uplift Mr. Thompson's father, but also to forge his own transformative math? "Your father," Jamal signed, deliberate. "He's telling you he loves you." The authenticity of those signs hung in the air, quaking with possibility. But Jamal couldn't shake the realization that to continue, he would have to confront his own reservations, to face the hidden parts of himself that still clung to self-doubt. As the warmth from their shared space penetrated deeper, Jamal felt something shift yet again, an inkling of that hidden potential beckoning him not just to facilitate communication, but to proclaim his place within it. This connection represented more than just two people joining words. It was a reminder that he belonged somewhere beyond the margins, in a world where he could make a difference. The silence of the waiting room felt like an abyss as he questioned what lay directly ahead. Would confronting his own fears be the key to sealing this bond? What awaited him if he embraced this moment fully and unreservedly? Just before he could answer that question, Mr. Thompson turned to Jamal, his expression resolute. "Can you help us?" The moment hung like a clarion call, a challenge that could amplify or ultimately destroy everything they had started to build. Jamal locked eyes with Mr. Thompson and nodded. This was a leap into the unknown, and yet, perhaps, it was finally time to soar. Jamal felt his heart amplify with intensity as he absorbed Mr. Thompson's words, a challenge charged with the weight of expectations. The air around them charged, shifting in cadence with his own rising exhilaration and trepidation. He was not merely a conduit anymore, he was becoming a catalyst. His next moves would determine the trajectory of healing for the Thompson family, but they would also mark a significant turning point in his own narrative. Without missing a beat, Jamal stepped toward Mr. Thompson's father, who stood as a precarious pillar of emotional history. The urgency in the room clung to him like a second skin, blending anticipation with the lingering whispers of self-doubt that threatened to pull him back. "Let's start with something simple," he signed, his fingers dancing across the air, fluid and deliberate, emphasizing his newfound resolve. "Ask him how he's been." As Mr. Thompson translated in hesitant, broken signs, Jamal noticed a flicker in the old man's eyes, surprise, mixed with something resembling gratitude. The weight of the past seemed to lift, the connection transforming into a shared experience. In that moment, Jamal was struck by how crucial it was for him to assert his role, not merely as an interpreter of language, but as an architect of emotion.
This wasn't just about signing words, it was about building a bridge strong enough to withstand the turbulence that had characterized their relationship. With every interaction, Jamal felt the subtle nuances of the Thompson family dynamic reveal themselves. The father's deep-set sorrow was palpable, the years of silence and distance etched into the lines of his face. Mr. Thompson's frustration transformed into empathy as he absorbed his father's responses. Jamal expertly navigated their emotional exchanges, creating a tapestry of understanding. Yet beneath this surface of smooth interaction, a tumult brewed in Jamal's mind. He began to recognize the patterns of his old self, the insecurities that had plagued him throughout his life. Could he maintain this newfound agency while battling the familiar doubts whispered in his ear? Jamal could feel the pressure mounting with each passing moment, as if he was walking a tightrope between failure and growth. "Ask him what he wishes he could change," Jamal signed, his tone confident, opening the door to vulnerability and deep reflection. The inquiry bore the weight of untold stories. Mr. Thompson hesitated, perhaps feeling the gravity of the question before translating it into signs. The old man's expressive face twisted painfully, revealing layers of regret. "Time," the father signed back, an echo of sorrow laden in every gesture. In that lingering silence, Jamal felt the sharp sting of recognition. It resonated within him, striking an empathetic chord he had long avoided. Denying moments, avoiding connections, it was all driven by a fear of inadequacy. He had bound himself with his own chains of hesitation, mirroring the fears that had held Mr. Thompson's father captive for so long. "What if we could create a new moment?" Jamal signed, breathing hope into the air, "one where you can rebuild." Their eyes met, and Jamal saw more than just pain reflected back. He saw a flicker of possibility, an affirmation of Jamal's place in this narrative, not just as a helper, but as an equal. He realized that this relationship could change him. He was shaping more than just their reality. He was reshaping his own. "Can we make a new memory?" Mr. Thompson signed, vulnerability spilling into the room like sunlight piercing through thick clouds. Jamal felt the pull of determination surging through him, igniting his will to confront not only the fears tied to this family, but those which had constrained his own personal development. This was not merely a task, it was an opportunity to flourish, to redefine what it meant to be seen, to take a stand for himself and others. As he prepared to guide them deeper into this transformative connection, he realized the stakes were rising. The revelation came to him with clarity. Embracing this path would require deliberate action, risking exposure of his own shortcomings, confronting the boundaries he once accepted as unbreakable.
Jamal took a breath, forging ahead. They were venturing into unknown territory together, a territory where vulnerability could breed strength and communication could tear down the walls built by silence. But had he truly found the courage he needed? Or was he poised at the edge of an abyss, ready to leap into uncertainty once again? The moment crystallized, pregnant with potential. What transformations awaited this family and himself on the other side of this conversation? Would he be able to guide their dialogue toward healing and, in doing so, forge his own liberation? He nodded to Mr. Thompson and his father, ready to delve deeper into the emotional labyrinth that lay ahead. In the midst of that uncertainty, Jamal felt the pulse of something greater than just fear and doubt. It was a burgeoning hope, whispering again the question that drove him forward. What if this was his moment to finally break free? Jamal inhaled deeply, the tension surrounding him thick like fog. He had unlocked a door, and now there was no turning back. The fragile flicker of hope that had ignited within the Thompson family could just as easily become a wildfire of emotions, consuming everything in its path. With a steadying breath, he prepared to navigate them through the maze of their past, aware that each step could lead to breakthrough or backlash. "Let's explore what you want for the future," he signed, focusing intently on Mr. Thompson's father. His eyes flickered with a mix of uncertainty and longing. It was a delicate moment. The pivot from reflection on loss to aspirations required not only tact, but also a sensitivity that Jamal was now beginning to grasp. The old man hesitated, his fingers hovering in the air. He realized they were on the precipice of revealing raw emotions, long buried beneath a veil of regret. It struck him that this was not merely about resolving a family issue. This was about opportunity, the chance for the father to reclaim his voice in a world that had rendered him silent. "What do you wish for?" Jamal signed again, his intensity matching the weight of the moment. "I want to see him happy," came the father's response, his hands shaking slightly. It wasn't just a statement, it was the unearthing of everything he could not say aloud for years. Jamal felt the gravity of those words resonate within him, forming a bond forged in shared experiences of inadequacy and longing for connection. Mr. Thompson's gaze darted between his father and Jamal, understanding dawning in his eyes. "What do you need from me?" he signed, a hint of determination emerging. This felt crucial, the realization that healing would not occur in isolation. They would have to face their ghosts together, as equals. In that moment, Jamal felt the clarity of his own purpose.
It was no longer just about facilitating communication. He had to become a nurturer of their relationship, guiding them forward, confronting their fears so that the shackles of their past could be broken. He hesitated for a moment, recognizing the power of vulnerability both men shared. "This is where we start," he signed, the decision solidifying in his mind, communicating openly, even when it's painful. He acknowledged the wide chasm of fear separating the two men, an abyss shaped by years of silence and misunderstanding. The room fell into a profound quiet as Mr. Thompson's father looked deeply into his son's eyes, a reflection of untouched dreams and unspoken fears. Jamal's heart raced as he sensed the shift, a window of possibility that could either lead to reconciliation or deepen their divide. "Do you believe you can forgive?" Jamal asked, his own voice a quiet question resonating within him. He was leading, yes, but there was a risk involved. They might not be ready, and he could again find himself drowning in the despair he had fought so hard to overcome. I want to forgive," Mr. Thompson's father signed, his hands trembling, each movement a dance laced with hope and fear. Jamal felt each word wrap around his heart like fragile wings, lifting him up. Encouraged, Jamal pressed further. "Forgiving means recognizing the past. What do you remember?" Simultaneously, he fought internally against the crippling voice within him that warned this might open a floodgate of pain he wasn't prepared to confront. Could he guide them through their storm without being swept away himself? Yet he realized defending against his doubts was limiting. This was not just about him. It was about the seeds of growth they were all sowing. Perhaps he could find his footing within their transformation, a stepping stone in his own journey of becoming. The air filled with tension, the anticipation of shared revelations suffusing the atmosphere. Just as he felt ready to press deeper, the old man's face shifted as he grasped the gravity of Jamal's question.
I remember the laughter, he signed softly, a hint of nostalgia creeping into his gestures. Jamal's heart soared momentarily, but then darkened. The laughter hinted at joy not fully realized, a reminder of how far they had all come and how much further they still had to go. Could laughter return to them? Let's build on that, he signed confidently. Let's create new laughter. But he couldn't shake the thought that each endeavor might require a deeper excavation of hidden feelings, a confrontation of feelings he himself shared. As the emotional excavations deepened, would he remain resolute, or would he collapse under the weight of this budding hope? As he wrestled with those thoughts, Mr. Thompson stood with renewed energy, anticipation lighting his features. Jamal felt his own energy shift, the urgency escalating as he prepared to lead them further into their shared narrative.
The roots of their suffering entangled with his own now, demanding bravery that felt both liberating and terrifying. Jamal readied himself. This conversation would not only build a bridge for them, it could also transform him completely. Yet, as he guided them through the complexities of their emotions, a lingering question echoed in his mind. Could he truly bear the weight of their pain while cultivating his strength? Would he emerge from this relationship not just as a guide, but as a man transformed? Jamal took a moment, allowing the gravity of the old man's words to settle within him. The laughter, so simple yet so profound, was a lifeline. It was the turning point he had been searching for, a glimpse of a way forward not just for Mr. Thompson and his father, but for himself too. He realized, however, that reconstructing their shared history would demand immense courage, not only from them, but from him as well. The temptation to retreat into a shield of detachment loomed large. "Tell me about your laughter," he signed, looking to draw out the memories that could lay a foundation for healing. Hesitation passed between the two men, a silent negotiation of their shared discomfort. Jamal felt the energy in the room shift, a collective breath held as they prepared to dive into the depths of their relationship. Mr. Thompson seemed to brace himself, fingers quivering. We played games," he signed slowly, visibly skinning back layers of protective emotion. I remember us playing cards, and he taught me about strategy. It was fun." Encouraged, Jamal nodded. "What else made you laugh?" The inquiry felt like pressing on a bruise, but a necessary sensation for real growth. Mr. Thompson's father's face lit up slightly, his hands finding steadiness as he pieced together fragments of joy lost in a sea of regret. "The jokes, silly jokes, always bad ones." Jamal chuckled silently at this admission, sensing the tentative bond forming between father and son, chiseled by laughter. As the old man shared more, Jamal felt a pulse of determination bloom in him. This was the key, the essence of connection lying dormant beneath pain. But the joy generated in their exchange set Jamal upon a path inadvertently fraught with peril. Each shared tale risked unearthing deeper sentiments, moments rife with regret and remorse alongside the playful sounds of laughter. "Why don't we create a game now?" Jamal suggested, inspired by the bond currently emerging. Ideas pitter-patted in his mind, something engaging that might weave them together, threading their laughter into the fabric of healing. "You want to play?" Mr. Thompson signed, a fresh glimmer of excitement surfacing amid residual anxiety. "Let's!" Jamal signed, feeling a wave of energy surge through him. The weight of responsibility felt lighter momentarily, buoyed by the prospect of crafting new laughter. He envisioned a series of questions or challenges that could provoke not only laughter, but also further connection and vulnerability. "Share something you love about each other," Jamal suggested. The room thickened with silence, their expressions shifting from lightness to anticipation of unearthing deeper sentiments. Jamal gathered his resolve. This quest required bravery. Vulnerability was the fuel for their growth, but could they truly withstand the explosiveness of those revelations? Mr. Thompson's father was the first to speak, his fingers moving slowly but with purpose. He never gives up. A simple statement, perhaps, yet it reverberated with unspoken pride and a burgeoning emotion beneath the surface. Jamal sensed it bond them, a stepping stone laying itself for Mr. Thompson to follow. When Mr. Thompson responded, his face softened. "He cared for me when others didn't. He still does." The love in those words cut through the tension like a knife through ice waters, laying open paths yet unexplored. Yet beneath it, Jamal felt the specter of pain lurking, a realization of love intertwined with loss, a narrative woven with frayed edges threatening to unravel at any moment. Encouraged, Jamal pressed onward, attuned to the brittle yet fragile energies enveloping them. "What do you regret?" he signed, bracing himself for the coming storm.
He understood this inquiry shook off the dust of festering resentment and pain, laying bare all that had gone wrong. The time had come to face the shadows that had loomed for far too long, for love and regret were two sides of the same coin. Would the inevitable confrontation besiege the fragile connection they had just begun to forge? As Jamal poised himself to guide them forward, uncertainty buzzed dangerously in his chest, awakening yet another layer of personal conflict that demanded expression. He held his breath as the tension rippled among them like electricity, a precarious thread from both hope and despair hung. Would they emerge from this moment emboldened, fueled by a symphony of shared laughter and love, or would the past confront them with the weight of their choices, threatening to pull them back in the shadows once again? Jamal knew the truth whispered within that instant. A profound transformation awaited at the intersection of vulnerability and truth, and as he took that step into the abyss, he questioned whether they were truly ready to expose themselves, and what that meant for him. What would it unveil, not just for the Thompsons, but for Jamal himself? As his heart raced, he realized he was on the verge of either a breakthrough or a breakdown, where the consequences of their conversations would not just redefine their relationships, but could also redefine his very identity. As the silence lingered like a thick fog, Jamal's gut twisted with anxiety. The father's sorrowful gaze fell to the ground, and Mr.
Thompson's expression shifted, his brows knit together as he confronted the question that hung in the air. This was uncharted territory for both of them, and Jamal knew he had to navigate it carefully. He took a breath, focusing on his purpose. No matter their fears, he had a role to fulfill. "It's okay to feel scared," he signed, his hands moving deliberately to emphasize understanding. "This is a safe space." Mr. Thompson's fingers trembled. The father seemed to draw inward, his body language tightening as he wrestled with the specter of regret. Jamal felt the weight of their histories pressing down on him. He had barely started his own journey of self-discovery, only beginning to shed layers of detachment and denial. Yet here he was, standing at the brink of another person's emotional landscape. "Sometimes I wish I had been there more," the old man finally signed, his voice quaking with the weight of his admission. Jamal felt a jolt at the rawness of those words as they cut through the silence, revealing unspoken truths. It was a moment that could have easily spiraled into despair, but Jamal sensed a flicker of something different: courage. "Just saying that is a huge step," Jamal encouraged, adopting a tone that was firm yet compassionate. "What would you say if you could turn back time?" The father's lips trembled, and after a moment he responded, "I would have tried harder, shown him love. Maybe more laughter." Mr. Thompson flinched at the suggestion, the weight of the old man's shadows forming a heavy lens through which they both viewed their realities. Yet instead of retreating, he leaned forward, visibly swallowing his discomfort. "But you're here now. We're talking now. Isn't that enough?" It was a tactical turnaround, a shift that held potential. Jamal could feel the dynamic altering, the gulf between them momentarily bridged. Their connection breathed new life. Yet he felt his own heart race alongside the dramatic tension that swelled. Was it genuinely enough? "Sometimes showing love means forgiving," Jamal signed, letting the words linger in the air, probing their minds. He could almost hear the gears turning, the anxiety boiling down to confrontation. What if the willingness to forgive was key to unlocking their new reality? Mr. Thompson's father slowly ventured forth, digging deeper into his vulnerability. "I never forgave myself for the years we lost." There it was, the unraveling of tightly wound threads that had bound him to guilt. Despite the emotional turmoil cascading through the room, Jamal felt propelled by a profound understanding. Each confession sparked more courage. Turning toward Mr. Thompson, Jamal sought his eyes, seeing the tsunami of conflicting emotions swirling within. "Sometimes holding on to regret keeps us from being present," he signed. "Imagine how freeing it would be to let that go." The father responded with a deep sigh, the very sound weighted by lifetimes lived. "But what if I can't?" Jamal momentarily faltered, the uncharacteristic uncertainty surfacing in him. He had prompted risks before, but now the idea of failure tugged at his resolve. As he grappled with the implications of the willingness to forgive, he sensed that his own self-doubt mirrored the Thompsons' fear of vulnerability. He sighed internally, embracing the knowledge that healing did not happen overnight. It morphed through moments just like this one, built layer by layer. This was the moment where he had to decide. Would he push further into the emotional breach, risking everything?
or retreat before the full force of connection washed over them. You might not be ready, he offered softly, but each step matters. What if the next step is to share one laughter-filled moment, free of the weight of regret? The suggestion was a challenge, a pathway out from under the oppressive atmosphere of regret. Their eyes pierced through the thick darkness they had erected. Jamal felt the energy transform between them, a sense of mystique hanging delicately on his every word. "What is one joke that always made you laugh?" he asked. A faint smile danced on Mr. Thompson's lips, a glimmer of childhood nostalgia crossing his face. Laughter had become a linchpin, but how far could it extend? Jamal's resolve hardened. If he could guide them towards laughter, could it be the beacon they needed for forgiveness? The moment weighed heavy as he sensed the dawning realization within him. The change he sought for them might actually initiate self-discovery for himself. Yet would they embrace the joy of the moment, or continue to be swallowed whole by their past? As laughter lingered at the periphery of their conversation, he couldn't help but question his own capacity for healing. What walls might come crashing down if he was truly willing to lift his own veil of regret? They stood on the brink of a transformative decision, their journey poised to reveal profound truths. Were they ready to step into laughter's embrace, or would they falter to the specter of sorrow lingering just beyond their grasp? Jamal's heart raced as he felt the pulse of the electric silence between him and the Thompsons. The prospect of shared laughter shimmered just out of reach, yet fear threatened to reel them back into their shadows. As he studied the father's face, Jamal resolved to delve deeper, to confront the daunting emotions that wrapped around them like an invisible fence. "Mr. Thompson," he signed, punctuating each movement with sincerity, "what does laughter mean to you?" The old man hesitated, caught off guard. "Laughter," he began. "It feels like joy. It feels like freedom." The confession hung in the air, as fragile yet powerful as a dandelion seed afloat in the breeze. In that delicate admission, Jamal sensed a shift, an opportunity to dismantle the barriers that had long confined Mr. Thompson. "Can you recall a moment when laughter was your escape?"
Jamal pressed, leaning forward slightly, his body language urging the transformation he sought. Mr. Thompson closed his eyes, his brow furrowing in contemplation. "There was a time with my son. We went fishing. He caught a silly little fish and named it Sardinio. We laughed for hours over that ridiculous name. That was back when things were simpler." A wave of emotion washed over Jamal. Vulnerability flared within the room like an uncontained fire. He could almost taste the memories the old man had suppressed. "Let's find Sardinio again," he signed. "What if you and I could bring that joy back? Imagine sharing a laugh with him again." The flicker of skepticism danced across Mr. Thompson's face. Jamal felt a pang of doubt himself. He had only just begun to peel back his own layers of pain. Perhaps he was asking too much of them. But he was not here to falter. He was here to cultivate growth. "Joy might be buried," Jamal said softly, "but it's still there, waiting for you to rediscover it. What do you think you could do, just today, to reconnect with that laughter?" "I don't know," Mr. Thompson sighed, his thoughts now tangled in uncertainty. His breath seemed measured, as though he stood on a ledge, weighing the risks of jumping. "Maybe I could tell him that story?" "Yes," Jamal's enthusiasm bubbled over. "Picture it, you both sitting by a river, laughing, bridging the divide." Jamal's own heartbeat synchronized with the slow awakening of Mr. Thompson's spirit. Each minute shift, the father loosening his grip on regret, the faintest flicker of hope, fueled Jamal's own resolve. He craved to dig further into his own emotional landscape while guiding them toward each other. But it wasn't just about them. Through this process, Jamal was uncovering his own neglected emotions, confronting the ghosts that clung to him like a relentless shadow. Deep down, he faced impending reckoning, forcing him to consider the layers of his past, the regrets he had not yet forgiven. Could he truly help someone else while still tethered to his own wounds? "What about you?" Mr. Thompson suddenly sighed, eyes piercing through Jamal. The question caught him off guard. Jamal hesitated, the weight of his insecurities crashing down like a tidal wave. Confrontation. It was a critical moment, one that demanded honesty. Perhaps he had to offer up his own burdens too. "I haven't laughed much lately," he finally replied, his voice shaky and vulnerable. "I've been too focused on the past." "And how can you find laughter?" Mr. Thompson pressed, his expression encouraging yet serious. Right then, Jamal felt the stirrings of an idea take root. "Maybe I should seek it out. Find those moments, even in the small things," he signed back, conviction grounding his movements. Could it ignite a fire within him?
The exploration of laughter was a path he had begun to chart.
But each step toward healing required vulnerability, a decision Jamal still wrestled with daily. In that room, amidst the healing exchange, bonding threads were forming through shared experiences. Jamal felt an insatiable thirst for freedom from his own shackles, mirrored in Mr. Thompson's gaze. The next question loomed as if it held the weight of the universe. Were they both ready to embrace laughter, not as a fleeting moment, but as a tool for liberation? As Mr. Thompson's eyes flickered with determination, Jamal felt it, an inexplicable expansion of hope that something profound was unfolding, a catalyst for transformation. This wasn't just a journey of forgiveness, but a reclamation of joy that could alter their very fabric. "Let's share a story," Jamal suggested, their sacred pact solidified. The air vibrated heavily with possibility. As Jamal's spirit lifted, he heard the call of laughter echoing from what felt like distant realms. Yet what awaited them on the other side of that newfound joy? Would it liberate them, or would it unveil further buried truths they were not yet ready to face? Jamal stood at the intersection of their emerging laughter and silence, absorbing the moment's weight. With a newfound clarity, he embraced the vulnerable landscape he had unwittingly cultivated and the journey they had all embarked upon together. "Let's share a joyful memory," he proposed, letting his fingers dance gracefully in the air. This was not just a request, but a challenge to weave their lives into an intricate tapestry of connection and healing. Mr. Thompson leaned forward, his brow furrowing at the thought of exposure. "Like fishing?" he signed, the memory igniting hope within him, a spark of laughter threatening to flicker back into life. "Yes, just like that," Jamal confirmed, excitement pulsing through him. "Tell me about the day you caught Sardinio." Mr. Thompson's eyes softened. He shifted from trepidation to reminiscence. He began to sign. "It was hot, and we sat on the riverbank, laughing at everything. I had a bag of chips, and my son dumped them all into the water, trying to lure the fish. We both ended up drenched." As he spoke, Jamal shared in the joy of that memory, signaling his encouragement with wide gestures. Each laugh, each sign sparked a contagious energy that filled the room, creating a vivid canvas of connection. The atmosphere of dread melted away, the choices that once suffocated them now embellished with layers of laughter interweaving their stories. Jamal realized he did not just facilitate communication, he wielded the possibility of understanding, transformation pouring out of their shared laughter as it washed over them. Then Mr. Thompson turned to Jamal, his expression one of earnest inquiry. "What about you? Got a funny fishing story?" Jamal hesitated, startled that he had momentarily slipped into the role of guide. Their laughter had freed something long forgotten in him. "I once went fishing and only caught a shoe," he recalled, a playful smile emerging. "Not exactly the catch of the day." As laughter erupted, Jamal felt a wave of acceptance washing over him. This simple exchange was a reciprocal act of vulnerability, allowing him to be seen and recognized. For perhaps the first time, he was no longer an invisible cog in the restaurant machine, or merely a bystander in someone else's life. He was here, fully present, a participant in this narrative. Realization surged within him. He felt the chains of self-doubt begin to crumble. He had stepped beyond the limitations imposed on him by fear. The act of sharing his story was freeing. He embraced the power of his voice, the strength residing in every jest and moment of connection. With renewed vigor, Jamal turned to Mr. Thompson's father, whose eyes glimmered with curiosity. "What's your shoe story?" Jamal signed playfully, igniting the spirit of laughter that had transformed the room. The old man chuckled, a shaky yet gleeful response escaping him. "One time, I tripped over my own line at the riverbank, fell, and caught a fish in my hat." This cascading laughter reverberated within Jamal's chest as he felt their burdens lifting. Healing rippled through the energy they'd cultivated together. Here, in this space, possibility was born anew. He knew they had uncovered a vital lesson, the freedom, joy, and deep connection, all laid within the simple act of laughter. As the evening unfolded, they delved into stories, shared jokes, and unburdened their hearts through delight, a critical turning point. The walls that had once confined them began to crumble, revealing deeper roots of understanding. Mr. Thompson's hesitant engagement blossomed into a shared dialogue of affection with his father, revealing a newfound intimacy. And as laughter echoed between them, Jamal felt the essence of family solidifying again. Jamal marveled internally.
This was his moment of profound perseverance. He had awakened a sense of belonging and reclaimed his identity within this shared exchange. No longer a waiter tethered to self-doubt, he stood confidently as a catalyst for change. Every sign he formed was a testament to his journey, illuminating growth, determination, and the realization that he had conquered his fear. As the evening showcased their shared triumphs, Jamal turned to the Thompsons. "You've taken an impressive step together tonight. This is just the beginning." Their laughter intertwined, hanging in the air as a reminder of the bonds forged against the backdrop of silence. Jamal could see their eyes glow with possibility, the paths ahead glittering with warmth, a journey toward forgiveness, laughter, and acceptance awaiting them. And as they gathered their stories and laughter to carry forward, a quiet resolve took root in Jamal's heart. He recognized the transformation within himself, the shift from darkness to light.
He comprehended that he now possessed the power to mold each choice, to challenge every fear. In that vibrant glow of shared joy, Jamal defined his newfound conviction. It was not merely about helping others rediscover their voices, but embracing his own. He achieved the confidence that came with connection and recognition. There was no more concealing, no more restraining. This was a triumphant moment of personal victory. Jamal beamed, breathing deeply, surrounded by two figures who had stepped out of the shadows with him. He had found himself through them, shaping a new definition of identity, forged through laughter, empathy, and the unwavering resolve to transcend limitations. "I'm proud of you both," he signed earnestly, acknowledging not only their journey, but his as well. With a contented smile, he embraced the opportunity to reach further, to inspire change beyond this room, to continue on his path toward achieving greatness. That night had shown him the capacity of laughter to transcend barriers, to heal old wounds, to anchor bonds between souls. His journey was ongoing, but Jamal was resolute. He felt exhilarated, empowered, and ready to embrace every moment that lay ahead, armed with the knowledge that he could forge connections deeper than silence, through laughter, compassion, and authentic exchange. It was a triumphant close, yet only the beginning of an adventure that pulsed with potential. Jamal's heart swelled with satisfaction. He had not only conquered the limitations of his past, he had stepped into a larger story, one of personal growth, fulfillment, and the unending journey of self-discovery, intertwined with the act of connecting with others. As Jamal left the room that night, the newfound weight around his shoulders felt light, and he felt ready to carry on with a heart full of hope and laughter, knowing he was never truly alone. Now, it's your turn to join us on this incredible journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the content you love. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending below. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support, and don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of their engagement.